I just want to state this before I begin the review. I really respect Dopesubs. I really do. If you don't know who Dopesubs are, they're the people from last week that actually subtitled Jinsei, the only fan group that really subtitled this series, and at the same time, there was a lot of translation errors in the first episode. And I did complain about it a little bit last week, how comedy was lost. But the reason why I'm talking about them right now is because they actually admitted to their mistakes in this episode. Literally, right at the beginning in the opening song, they say that they made mistakes, and they're trying better, and I respect honesty, I really do, and I really respect how they actually admitted they had mistakes, and at the same exact time, they will try better. I compliment them. Dopesubs, you're fucking badass, and I will say you definitely did a good job in this episode of, translating the entire lines of what the characters were saying. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you for taking the time to translate this, because I definitely could not translate an anime, and so they did a better job than I could ever do. So, one thing I want to talk about, this anime series, Jinsei, it's rushed. It seems rushed. It really does. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the comedy, it wasn't the subtitles this time. The comedy, I feel, is just very dry. It really is. Let me explain why, okay? This episode was skipping over scene after scene after scene, multiple different places this entire episode. For instance, we had like a gypsy fortune-telling section right at the beginning of this episode. We had a couple of life decisions in the middle of it. We had a scary haunted house or school section in the middle of this episode. And then right at the end, we had a birthday party. I mean, all these scenes just felt very weird and bunched up and came out of nowhere. I mean, it was so fucking random, all these different scenes, and they had like no correlation with each other, and I felt like all these different scenes were just being rushed and butchered and constantly skipped over. Honestly, I still will retain my entire opinion on how I feel like all these characters are rather dull and stereotypical. I mean, really, all the characters are just so standard for an anime. You have a sports girl, you have like a richish type girl, you have, a scientific type girl, and at the same time, you have a very bland main male character. So, I feel like this series, honestly, Jinsei, in a whole, it's not that good. Honestly, that's my opinion from watching this separate episode, because the comedy doesn't seem to be for me, and at the same time, it feels like the comedy is just being rushed over, and all the main jokes, I don't understand them, because the way they talk, for instance, the translators even had to state in this episode with little notes on the top, saying that they were just rushing and talking so super fast, that they had to put like half the freaking episode with subtitles on it, because they were talking so fucking fast, and that wasn't the translator's fault. So, it's the anime's fault for actually just rushing their comedy and trying to fast forward their voices so freaking quick. So now that I mentioned that, I want to talk about something else, okay? Now, I mentioned that the comedy of this episode wasn't that good. And one thing I will admit, the comedy of the translators were a lot better than the actual episode. Now, if you look at the translator notes at the top of different scenes, especially that one scene with the spider, the censored spider, you will see the translation notes at the top. It's like, holy shit, what the hell is that, a censored spider? That spider must be brutal. We must call the FCC. And I laughed my ass off of hearing something like that, because I just couldn't retain from laughing, because that was one of the funniest jokes I've seen in the entire episode, but it was made by the translator's notes at the top of the episode. So that's bad when the translator's comedy beats the actual anime. So we have a problem. There's a big problem right now. Overall, I feel like the translators did a better job with this episode. It was good. The comedy, I think, was still there. It just, this anime had a bad job of portraying the comedy, because I feel like they were rushing scene after scene, and all the character development didn't feel really realistic. For instance, at the end, with how all the characters felt like major important friends with that birthday party, it felt very fake with how these scenes have been. So anyways, everybody, tell me your opinions on this episode. I love all of you so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.